In 1990, the average Aussie home cost 5 times the median income. Today, 12 times. The math has literally stopped working for an entire generation. This isn't some abstract statistic. This is your life, your savings, your dream of owning a place that's actually yours. And right now, that dream is getting further away every single month. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly why prices exploded, who's responsible, and the 3 real levers that could, or couldn't, actually fix this. Back in 1990, the median Australian house was around $100,000. Median household income? Roughly $28,000. Sounds manageable, right? But here's what nobody talks about. Wages have grown, sure, just not even close to the same speed as house prices. I'll show you the exact gap in 30 seconds. Stay with me. Fast forward to 2025, and the median Australian house price sits at around $959,000. Core Logic 2025. Not Sydney, the national median. Let that sink in. Meanwhile, median household income sits around $100,000. ABS 2025. That puts the national price-to-income ratio at 9.6 times. In Sydney, closer to 13. Now, this is going to make some people really uncomfortable, because one of the biggest drivers of this crisis isn't the banks, it isn't developers, it's policy. I get it, that's a big call. But the numbers don't lie. Between 2020 and 2025, Australian house prices rose by roughly 40%, Core Logic 2025. Wages over the same period? Up about 15%, ABS 2025. That's not a gap, that's a chasm. Here's what that looks like in real money. A 20% deposit on the median house in 2020 was around $150,000. Today it's around $192,000. That's $42,000 more, just to get to the starting line. And I get it. You've heard just save more. But before we move on, do you actually know how long it'd take you, on your income, to save a $192,000 deposit right now? Most people don't. At the average savings rate for Australians under 35, roughly $14,000 a year, ABS 2025, saving a $192,000 deposit takes nearly 14 years. That's not a timeline. That's your entire 30s gone. And if nothing changes for a 30-year-old renting at $650 a week today with no savings, by age 50, they'll have paid $676,000 in rent, with zero equity to show for it. That is genuinely confronting. Sydney's median rent hit $608 a week in 2025, Domain 2025. That's $35,160 a year just on rent, which is almost exactly what someone on minimum wage earns before tax. Think about that. Get this wrong, the rent versus save calculation, and it could cost you $200,000 in lost wealth over 10 years. That's not made up. That's compound growth on a deposit you never got to invest. Now let's talk interest rates. The RBA cash rate went from 0.1% in 2021 to 4.35% by late 2023, RBA 2025. On a $750,000 mortgage, that rate jump adds roughly $2,100 per month to repayments. Per month. That extra $2,100 a month is your grocery run, your car loan, your streaming services, your gym, and your electricity bill. And you'd still be $300 short. Every single month. Just from a rate move. And I'm going to show you something in about 60 seconds that most Australians have never seen modeled. The actual 3-way link between supply, rates, and tax. It explains everything. Stay with me. Right, so, everyone blames negative gearing, and it's real. It costs the federal budget around $4.5 billion a year. Treasury 2025. But here's the thing. Abolishing it alone wouldn't fix the crisis. Not even close. Because here's what they're not telling you. The real crisis is a supply problem that's been building for 30 years. And the data makes it brutally clear. This is the part that changes how you see everything. Australia needs roughly 240,000 new homes a year to keep pace with population growth, NHFIC 2025. We've been building closer to 170,000. That 70,000 home annual shortfall compounds every single year it's not fixed. Think about it. 70,000 missing homes per year times 10 years is 700,000 homes that should exist but don't. When supply can't meet demand, you already know what happens to prices. Now here's the part that surprises most people. Even dual-income households on six figures are getting squeezed out. Most Australians assume 200K household income fixes it. The numbers from ASIC Money Smart? Not even close. A dual-income household on $200,000 combined can borrow roughly $1 million. ASIC Money Smart, 2025. Sydney's median house is $1.4 million. They're $400,000 short on a $1 million loan. That is a structural problem, not a savings problem. The average age of a first home buyer in Australia is now 36, ABS 2025. In 1990, it was 27. That's 9 extra years of your life the housing market has taken from an entire generation. 9 extra years of renting, before building any equity at all. At $600 a week average rent, that's $800 paid to someone else's mortgage over those 9 years. Gone, with nothing to show for it. Here's how that compares to someone who bought at 27. By the time our 36-year-old gets their keys, the 27-year-old already owns $250,000 in equity. Same job, same salary, 9 years difference. Australia's population grew by 2.5% in 2023-24. 656,000 extra people in a single year, ABS 2025. That is the entire population of Canberra arriving and needing somewhere to live every 12 months. Most of those 656,000 people land in Sydney and Melbourne, but construction approvals in those cities are actually falling, down 12% from their 2022 peak, ABS 2025. More people, fewer homes. You do the maths. And zoning laws block around 70% of land in most Australian cities from medium or high-density development, Productivity Commission, 2023. We have literally locked the supply door and thrown away the key. Everything you've been told about fixing housing is technically true, but missing the most important part. Rate cuts alone won't fix it. Negative gearing reform alone won't fix it. All 3 levers have to move together. The RBA cash rate has already started moving. It was cut to 4.1% in early 2025, RBA 2025, and economists are forecasting further reductions through 2026. That does shift borrowing capacity. We just need to understand how. Every 0.25% rate cut adds roughly $60 per month in borrowing capacity for every $100,000 borrowed, ASIC Money Smart, 2025. On a $700,000 loan, that's around $420 per month freed up, which honestly is meaningful. But here's the catch, and this is the uncomfortable part. Every time borrowing capacity goes up without supply going up, prices just rise to absorb it. That's happened every single time in Australian history. Every single time. The federal government's Housing Australia Future Fund targets 30,000 new social and affordable homes over 5 years. Treasury 2025. At a 70,000 home annual shortfall, that's less than half a year's gap. A start, but not enough. State governments are stepping in. Victoria and NSLs have major transit-oriented development policies that could unlock hundreds of thousands of homes near train lines over 15 years, NSW Planning 2025. That's real, but 15 years is a long time to wait. No, seriously, around 60% of Australian federal parliamentarians own investment properties, ABC Analysis 2023. There's a financial incentive baked into the decision-making class to keep prices elevated. Not malicious, just the maths. And look, fair dinkum, this isn't left versus right. Both major parties have been in power while this crisis built over 30 years. The politics is a distraction. Supply, zoning, and tax reform all need to move simultaneously. Full stop. Right, so here's what you can actually do with this. If you're priced out of Sydney or Melbourne, have you genuinely looked at Brisbane, Adelaide, or Perth? Median price is still under $800,000 in all 3, CoreLogic 2025, and growing slower. Before you write off relocating, consider this. Buying in Brisbane instead of Sydney on the same income could put $300,000 more equity in your pocket over 10 years, purely from the deposit leverage difference. That's not nothing. If you're actively saving right now, look into the First Home Guarantee Scheme. It lets eligible buyers purchase with a 5% deposit without paying lender's mortgage insurance, NHFIC 2025. On a $600,000 home, that's saving around $14,000 up front. And on the savings side, hear me out, every extra $100 per week invested at 7% annual return compounds to roughly $75,000 over 10 years. That's a real deposit boost that doesn't require a single dollar of house price decline. And if you're a couple, have you actually modeled buying a lower value property together first, building equity over 5 years, then upsizing? It's slower. But the data shows it works, and most couples haven't run the numbers. And politically? Vote with this in mind. Local council elections determine zoning. State elections shape planning laws. Federal elections drive tax policy. You've got 3 bites at the Democratic apple every 3 to 4 years. Use them. Look, if you're watching this in your late 20s or 30s and you feel like the system wasn't set up for you, you're not wrong. The data backs that up completely. That frustration is completely legitimate. But people are still buying homes. It's harder than it was for your parents, absolutely. It's not impossible. And the people making it work aren't just lucky. They've made very deliberate decisions. That's the part you can control. And honestly, the fact that you've watched a video about housing data and supply policy on your own time already puts you ahead of most people. Information is step 1. You've done step 1. That matters. If this video changed how you see the housing crisis, and even slightly, and smashing the like button takes 2 seconds, and it genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need to hear this. Drop a comment below. Tell me your city and what you reckon a house in your suburb actually costs right now. Round numbers, no judgment. I genuinely want to see what you're all working with out there. Subscribe, not just for more videos, but because the next one covers exactly what happens to house prices when the RBA cuts rates again. Spoiler, it's not what most people expect. I'll see you in that one.